probably a couple of weeks after the election results were announced, I was sitting in the radio studios in London, and a very influential, not just by words, he's known to be one of the most influential churchmen in Ghana, was sitting in the studio. And the first words he asked me, knowing I was Nigerian, was, how are you guys going to manage with this man that's going to Islamize Nigeria? That was his question to me. And I've heard that chorus not just from rank and file, but from leaders. And so my question, Prof, is I know you've said categorically that this is nonsense. What facts do you have that gives you such confidence that this is nonsense?
Well, it is nonsense. I must repeat that again. And I think that the reason why that is so is that anyone who looks at the track record of General Buhari knows that he's not an Islamist. I mean, General Buhari was head of state of Nigeria from December 1983 to August 1985. In that period, he had, as it were, absolute power. Military rulers have absolute power. At that time, governors were appointed. They were not elected, and he had absolute power to appoint governors. Of the 19 governors, because we had 19 states then, he appointed 11 Christians. Of his ministers, all the ministers in his cabinet, who he appointed all by himself, over 60% of them were Christians, over 60%. He had an opportunity to join the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries. He had an opportunity to do so. He had absolute power to do so. In fact, his deputy at the time, Tunde Idiagbon, was also a Muslim. But he refused to do that and stated categorically, even then, that this country is a multi-faith country and that there is no basis whatsoever for our country to join the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries. So here is a man who has absolutely no track record. In fact, he said himself that my cook, my driver, my bodyguards, my security people, all of them are Christians. The people who can kill me are Christians. I haven't managed to Islamize them, if I wanted to. How am I going to Islamize Nigeria?
A component of some of the struggles that we observe, at least for a lot of us from outside, is this issue of the relationship between Islam and Christianity and the tensions that have grown, and it's become quite problematic. What's the plan for you and General Buhari in terms of bringing some reconciliation? Yes. Is it possible, given how many people have died over the last few years?
I think that it's entirely possible. As a matter of fact, it is our responsibility to do so. And it's a major responsibility because we recognize that some of what has happened, some of the suspicions that have been engendered over the years, have been motivated by anything other than faith. Some people are misguided, some people are mischievous, and we need to resolve all of that. One thing that's important to bear in mind is that Muslims and Christians have lived in Nigeria, without any rancor over the years. But as time wore on, there have been all manner of divisions created, as I said, sometimes by mischief, sometimes by misunderstanding. And there's a need for us to reconcile all faiths in Nigeria. When you look at Boko Haram and the kinds of things that you're seeing today, it's important for everyone on either side of the divide, especially for Christians, to understand that Boko Haram and those kinds of insurgencies are not necessarily, in fact, they are not the belief of Muslims as a majority. The majority of Muslims are as outraged about Boko Haram as we are. So it's not an issue of just Muslims versus Christians. And this is something we need to have our people understand, have Christians understand, and even have Muslims understand very clearly that we're fighting a common terror. We're fighting a common enemy, an enemy that can destroy us all. I will destroy us not just by not necessarily physically, but that can create the kinds of tensions that can cause us to begin to war amongst ourselves.
I must ask you, what's your administration's plan with Boko Haram? And do you think you can be successful where the last administration failed?
We're going to have a commander-in-chief who will lead from the front, who is going to be out there himself supervising the operations and ensuring that there is that this is prioritized, it's the highest priority of government, because he said repeatedly that security, of course, is the first business of a government, ensuring that there is law and order, that lives and property are safe. Third thing is equipping the military. The military is demoralized, and you can see from some of the comments here and there, the military needs to be equipped. And of course, we've just got to raise the morale of the military. Mm-hmm. So that's an important thing, equipping them, ensuring that they have all that they require to prosecute this war. The fourth and possibly the most important thing is depleting the pool of resources, of human resources that the Boko Haram has. And that's the young men up there in the northeast, And the reason why you find that Boko Haram appears to continue to have regular recruits is because there are so many young men out there who have no hope at all. They have no stake in this society at all. As you know, unemployment is at an all-time high in our country, well over 40%. 80% of graduates have no work at all. So we think that it's important to have a scheme, to have some kind of a scheme to rehabilitate the young men who are there, provide them with some hope and some jobs. I mean, Boko Haram promises that wherever you go, whatever you loot, including women, if you kidnap the women, that's all yours. So we need to be able to offer an alternative to these young men who are out there.
How should someone watching or listening be praying for you, your family, General Buhari and his family? What should they be saying when praying to God?
I think they should just pray that we will stay the course. We're committed to ensuring that we change our country, that our country becomes a new country, a country that is respected and admired by other countries, a country where poverty, we're able to deal with the whole question of poverty, where every Nigerian is proud to be a Nigerian because government does what it ought to do, country that's corruption-free. We're committed to changing our country. It's a huge task. And if anyone would pray, and I pray that these guys will achieve what it is that their hearts have set out to achieve. Mm-hmm. That will be a great prayer indeed. And if the Lord answers that prayer, as I trust he will,